There are many verses about God's love for us and his sacrifice. But on top of reading these verses and the encouragement of those verses over these weeks, I have been impressed personally through our lessons by the face to face occurrences where God tells us not to fear. Christ is always trying to calm our fears, to bring peace, remove confusion and doubt. We see with Mary and Elizabeth and Joseph and the disciples and Thomas. These are examples. Oh, and let's not forget the cool wilderness dudes, the shepherds. From Luke. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary." From Luke 2. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news." And again from Luke 1. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been answered." This, of course, is not for lack of problems, but because of the presence of the sovereign Lord, the Lord of strength and guidance and personal connections. I have fallen into fear and depression several times in my life. There was a loss of job simultaneously with a loss of income and the arrival of a new baby and having 5 kids now. I felt deep fear like I was sinking, drowning, couldn't breathe. And another time when my wife was struggling with sickness and surgery, I was fearful, calling out to God, sometimes in anger and sometimes in lonely desperation. It was like the time that I was canoeing. I love to be in the woods and to practice self-reliant in the wilderness, to be far away from phones and technology. It was on this 2-week canoe trip away up in Canada, Quetico Lakes wilderness with Colleen, and I was becoming more and more sure of my direction finding, learning to see from the surface view of lakes the difference between a peninsula and an island from a mile away, and they look almost the same. And to find the unmarked trails through the 1,000 lakes, out and back home again. I was getting really good at it. And after a week, and with another 7 days of wilderness to go, and it was a nice day, I had stopped looking at the map. It was sunny and warm. All this was easy. Think about what happens when it's easy for you. Do you stop reading your Bible? Praying? Then fear came upon me. I'd come to the end of the lake where there should have been a river and a trail to the next lake, but there was no trail. I took out the map at that point, and it said the trail was on the right side, but it wasn't there. I took out another set of maps from a different company, and it said the trail was on the left, but it was not there. The sun was quickly setting. I heard crashing and something pushing and slowly moving through the woods as the sun was setting. Was it a moose? Was it a bear tracking us? I then remembered that we had bumped into a lost group we had encountered a few days back. They were miserable, cut and bruised. They had taken an animal trail to the wrong lake, paddled for days before they realized their mistake. Finding, in fear and frustration, I started randomly crashing into the woods with an axe. Colleen was saying something that it must be over there, but because of my fear, confusion, and doubt, I could not hear her. Finally, retracing the steps and stopping and asking for peace and direction, we found the water levels, that because the water levels were way down, the stream was gone, but there were scratches and evidence on the rocks. People had used this place before. It was the right way to go to the next lake. Although a hard path, we were on the right path. To sum up what I have learned, Jesus does meet us face to face with the disciples, and during their fears and doubts, he was encouraging and giving peace and reminding them not to fear at exactly the right time, where and when they needed it. The truth is that God is always there and loves you so much. Our feelings don't always line up with the truth, like the feeling of being lost in the wilderness or eaten by a bear. It is learning to live with what at the moment doesn't feel true is a lot of what being a child of God is. To live in faith, to reach out to touch Christ's hands and therefore have peace. From our study of John, we heard this several times. John 14, peace I leave you, my peace I give you. And John 16, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. That's all.